Hello, Prospect listeners, audience. Welcome to another edition of Prospect Radio. I'm on the couch with Conrad Ophidian. How are you doing?
Very well. Mic check.
Is your mic on? Have you? Great. Perfect.
It's on now. That's a great sign.
Technical.
Yeah.
So I've got a little bit of an intro. So you composed your first song aged 4 for your little sister.
Yeah.
By 16, you were signed to Roughnecks, Gangster Audiovisuals and Supreme Intelligent labels. You've released at least 4 albums. There's probably been a few more under other aliases, yeah. And, hundreds of singles, collaborations, remixes. You've toured the world, played some of the biggest hardcore stages. You've got a really distinct sound and an out-of-the-box approach to hardcore, which recently has taken you down some really interesting challenges, which we're going to talk about later. But it all started with the piano, right?
Yeah.
So the video we opened with was you, practicing for a live show. But take us back to, I guess aged 4, the moment when you started writing, composing songs for your sister.
Well, back then I was still living in Bunbury in Western Australia.
Ah, yes, of course.
And we had a piano in the home, right? So my mom played a bit, not too seriously, but she played a bit for herself. And my dad had some musical background, but just really like casual. But seeing there was a thing that made noise in the house and me being 4, I'm gonna try some stuff, right? So I think I was 5, almost 6 when I started like lessons proper. And that was completely different from what I was gonna do later, because I had this really like super strict old-fashioned teacher. Like she was proper scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. And I had to do these little exams and these little recitals, and they'd give you a diploma for which level you were at.
Oh, you did grades, right?
Yeah, sort of. I don't know exactly, but it was like you were 1.2, and then later you were 2. Or it was really serious, and it was like, I really hated it. I really, really hated it.
Yeah, I read somewhere that you never really liked pianos much, and you obviously...
No, well, especially... Well, back then I didn't know better than that was, piano lessons. But it was so serious. And I didn't really like practicing that much. And if I didn't practice enough, I would really get scolded. And there would be marks all over my sheet music. And yeah. But at the same time, I was already like playing something else sometimes than what it said, because I was trying to figure out like what works, what can I play that sounds good, and why should I be playing what's on the sheet music.
So you're a rebel at age 5.
Well, I wasn't really rebelling. It was more like, why are we playing what's written down, and I can play something else too, right? So that's the way I wrote those first little songs. Like the first one was really like a kid's song, but it was funny. I was just thinking last week, the first like 2 or 3 songs I wrote on the piano were, if you think about it now, like pretty, like the really minor key and really kind of dark. Wow. And I was thinking, why did it happen like that? But well, after I moved to the Netherlands, I had a different teacher, obviously, and she was a bit more relaxed in a way, but still, she didn't really understand, what I wanted to play. Like I wouldn't be really motivated to play these big classical things, and she'd try some like jazz, try this, try that, try some pop, but I wasn't feeling it, and my own musical tastes were going somewhere completely else, because when I moved here, I started to find out about electronic music and stuff that was in the top 50, and that was really important for that age. And
like what?
like early Two Unlimited, Eurodance,
Yes.
Capella, and there was the stuff going on like Rode Schoentjes and that time.
Yeah.
And obviously that has nothing to do with piano. And I was just kind of bored with it. And if I was playing myself, I was having fun. But no, eventually around age 17, I quit because it was, I wasn't learning that much and I wasn't having fun. But actually after I quit, I started playing a lot more piano.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? And so, you kind of hated it back then, but I guess now you kind of have totally
I'm really happy.
reevaluated it.
Well, I'm really happy I had the lessons.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because of what I learned there. Obviously, like, technique is good to have, right? They drilled me on how to use my fingers and how, so you got to learn that sometime if you want to play semi-seriously. But I'm really happy to have that background because it gave me, like, it opened the door to try stuff out and figuring out what worked and what didn't was what really led to me experimenting in music and getting more layered and more structured songs later on because it started there.
So then the next stepping stone is you working with a friend, Tapage, however you pronounce that.
It's French, but we're not French.
Oh, but we're not French, so we don't care. So you're like, 9 or 10 now, and you've kind of messing around with keyboards and recording stuff to tape. But I mean, maybe tell us about Tapage, and because then you've released together some music.
That was really awesome because I'm thinking which chickens and eggs came first, but like I think the first thing was that I was still messing around with writing like little things on the piano or whatever, but he had a keyboard, and the keyboard had, there were more sounds and we could plug it in and you could record it more easily. So then, around that age, around 9 or 10, we started. I actually still have it. We recorded 4 tracks on a cassette tape, like 4 semi-original, sort of inspired by stuff, but new tracks that we wrote in his room. And it was just, it was just on the fly. Just practice and then record and maybe overdub a little bit, but really super basic. And it's funny because after that, when we went to we call middelbare school, our next school that
It's like high school.
I think it's the equivalent of high school
or middle school or something.
I don't know. Where do you go when you're about 11?
I have no idea.
Secondary
school.
It's different everywhere.
It is different everywhere.
But we actually we ran in different friend groups and stuff, and we actually didn't interact for years. I mean, we said hi, we were friendly, but we didn't hang out at his place or And then like later on, when we were almost done, we started hanging out again and sort of just continued where we left off, just doing experimental stuff and recording it and overdubbing it and messing with the keyboard. And that's kind of what happened later on. In like, it was around the same time I was starting my own my own career releasing, but we were doing parallel to that the experimental stuff. So it was funny because it was like it had this straight link back to that period around 9 or 10 when we were doing that the first time.
When you're not overthinking anything and you're just sort of like
just running with it.
Yeah,
because everything was new, but also we hadn't planned anything. So anything we did was spontaneous, and it was a lot of fun to work that way. And actually, we entered our I think when we finished. When school finished, we were about 10 or 11 in groep 8, what we call that. There was this like a little talent show thing, and we entered with one of our tracks, and we came second.
Oh, wait!
We came second to the international students, so we were really pissed off about that because because the international students had this dumb thing, but they paid a lot of money to go to that school, and the parents were all there, and we felt like there was.
You were cheated.
We felt cheated. Yeah, we felt cheated.
Okay.
So, oh well. But yeah, that was the start.
So at this early age, where most boys are probably climbing trees and setting stuff on fire, you're kind of pursuing a music career,
And
right?
setting stuff on fire.
And setting stuff on fire. Okay. Few.
A little bit.
But yeah, I guess, this passion for music and this desire to really turn it into a career, did this happen really early, or, what?
I think there were different aspects of stuff that I like to do that sort of ran together to start the way it did, because first of all, I liked computers, and I was trying to program some stuff just in BASIC. It was really super basic stuff, but having fun with that. And I always had fun, like if I had a game, what happened if I swapped the files around and it would glitch out. And this was really early 90s stuff, so DOS on disks, and the files were pretty easy to break, and I was having fun with that. And then a friend of mine gave me a diskette that had, I think first it was Mod Edit and Mod Player. So these were 4-track, music making software, right? And that was amazing for me, because you didn't have to do everything in real time. So you could think up a beat, think up a melody, and then hack that in. And then it played 4 layers at the same time, and it was amazing. So the computer messing around stuff and the music and all this stuff just came together. So I started working with that software, and after that I moved on to Fast Tracker, which in retrospect is still hilariously basic, but it gave me suddenly, because I had worked with 4 tracks before, and then I think Fast Tracker had 16 in first, but maybe more later. That was that's endless tracks. I could just layer stuff.
Fast forward to now, where you can do everything. Yeah.
But I think it was really good to start that way.
Yeah, with limits, you mean?
With limits, yeah, and with having to do a lot of handwork, because if you wanted an effect, you had to just build it. You couldn't grab a VST plugin and say, I want to have it flange, or I want a delay on it, or or I want to reverse this or that. You can just plug in a submenu and then change some stuff or put a VST on it. You had to. It was all handwork, and having done that, I think it makes you have a very direct connection to the sound that you're working, and have a very much an idea what to put your will onto this sound and modify it in a way that you think. And I think if you start the way it is now, you can. Your first stuff you do is already limitless, basically. You're not challenged to look for solutions, because the solutions are pre-made. I'm not saying you can't make music that way. There are super talented guys, every week, and somebody stands up who's better than the rest is. But I think this hands-on and this almost artisanal way of working gives a lot of depth to what you're doing, and it's one way to arrive there, I think. Yeah. So yeah,
for sure. Okay, so how does a sprightly 16-year-old get on Roughnecks' radar? What happened there?
Oh well, I think the 16-year-old only had one goal in life.
Okay.
And that was get on
Roughnecks label.
Yeah,
Wow. How did you achieve that then?
Well, first of all, like what I said before, there was this Eurodance going on, and this top 50 music, and hearing some louder stuff and some more hardcore-ish stuff. Like hardcore wasn't that much in the media or anything yet, so it was, you got a tape from somebody, or you tuned into a radio station in the middle of the night, or something. You heard these sounds. You're like, oh, what's going on, right? And then I borrowed a CD from a friend at school, and that was one of the first Roughnecks CDs. And they said, yeah, you gotta hear this stuff. And I heard it, and I'm like, this is it. It's all happening now, right? Because I heard some hardcore sounds, I heard some darker sounds, some faster sounds, whatever. But it wasn't always just one, like, the whole thing was just atmosphere and noise and dark and fast, and it was so amazing. It was just for me, it was like, yeah, that's the sound that I'm gonna practice until I can do this.
Okay.
And you know, I actually didn't have the materials to do that. So the way that I went about making these kind of tracks was kind of funny in a way, because I had to just approximate what they were doing with sweeping filters and stuff. I couldn't do that. I didn't have filters. I had Fast Tracker. But eventually, I think my first demo was in '96, I think. So I'll be about 15, and it was turned down. And then a year later, I sent another one, and this time it was on a CDR, because this was where we were at that point, like birding our first CDs. And then I got a letter saying, do you have more stuff, and how do you see yourself in making music and in the scene, and maybe you want to come by and have a chat. And that's how it started. So I was, I think I was 17 by the time it was starting to get released, but yeah.
And are you going out and partying like normal teenagers at this moment, or are you kind of, I'm sitting at home and making music because it's my goal to be the best producer in the world?
Mostly
Second
sitting
one.
at home. Sitting at home making music, yeah mainly. Because first of all, I was a bit too young.
Yeah.
So I couldn't actually go to hardcore parties or anything. I think the first ones I went to were in Doornroosje, and one of the really early Masters of Hardcore parties, and then one of the gangsta parties, because Roughneck became gangsta around about this period. That was my first exposure to what this music was actually for, because I only knew it from listening to it in my room. And I made it in that context. And that was the first time I saw what it did to people and with people. Yeah. And that was crazy, because I was just too young to experience that before. So actually, I didn't even go to that many parties before I started playing, DJing there eventually. So, but I was never, I appreciate a good night out, definitely. And especially if there's good music and there's good people. But I'm not obsessed with it, because I'm just thinking, I need to go back and
I need to go and do something.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay.
So and even now, like DJing, or not now, but say last year. I mean, lots of friends and colleagues, they were, if you see them perform, and when they're done, they get all their energy from the stage. You know, it just does something to them, and that was never my thing.
Yeah.
On the stage, I was performing the music, and it was a place for me to show it, but I wasn't there to be on stage. You know, that wasn't the end goal. The end goal was to play the music.
Yeah. Okay.
And so. Yeah, I get that energy that they get from the performance itself, from actually playing the music and making the music itself.
Yeah.
When it's going right. It's not always. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about you DJing and performing a bit later, but first, I guess. So we're talking about this early Roughneck period before 2001, where there was a bit of a switch. So calling it your learning period, right? You're trying and testing
That's very
things out.
accurate,
Yeah, what were some of the key lessons and takeaways from this period, and also working with Roughneck?
Well, first of all, like what I said, I was practicing this style, right? And eventually, I managed to sort of copy it with my own twist, and that got signed. But it was still sort of a copy. So then I wasn't even signed that long with the label. I think I did 2 EPs as Triptychon, like in the old style. I did some. I already used the Ophidian LS, like 2 or 3 tracks, just here and there, and no EPs yet. And then Patrick said, "I'm closing the label." And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And what happens now? And he said, yeah, it's time to move on. We're going to do a new sound. It's going to have the same vibe, but it's going to be different. It's going to be slower. And he said the stuff I was starting to do as Ophidian, that would fit, just work on that. But what happened was that was the first time that I had to think, okay, so what am I going to do? Because I had this goal, and that was his sound, basically. My own version of it, but it was his sound. And that was the goal. So then I basically got thrown in the deep end. Like, figure it out. Right? He said he basically said you can do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I needed to come up with something, and so that was an accelerated learning period. I felt, I did try to continue the old style for a while, and he turned it down. And he said, "Nah, it's done. It's all been done now, and the style's moving away from this." And okay, so then I really had to start to work on my own sound, like my actual own sound. And that's what happened then, and especially with him he started Enzyme Records and Enzyme X. And the Enzyme X label was for, whatever you want. Like, there was some quality control, but you could experiment. That was what the X was.
Yeah.
And I really used that to try some different alleys, see where it went, and eventually came to my own sound that I would use later on my main releases as well. And yeah, what you asked, working with Patrick, that was super important, obviously, because when I first came to his studio to mix and master these tracks, it was like I was stepping into a airplane cockpit. It was crazy. I didn't have any instruments, or I had a keyboard, but I didn't have effects, hardware stuff, synthesizers, drum computers. All I had was diskettes with recycled sounds. And the way he worked, because I didn't have there was no way for me to actually tune sounds too much. I couldn't equalize or compress. So I just had to, it was like a crash course every time, like what is there, and just learning. I was just sitting there watching like it was like a class, like in university or something, just watching him work. And I was always so in awe of his ear that you could hear that something was not quite right with the sound, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I think we need to EQ this and that and fix it." I'd be like, "How did you? Why is it better now? How did you? What did you do?" So I basically just watched him for a long time to just learn all this stuff, and then slowly, try to
Do it on your own.
Yeah, do it myself. Yeah.
Okay. For everyone who's falling asleep, we are going to play a track now. Lucky you. We're gonna play. We're gonna play one of the most iconic Enzyme records that you guys did together, released in 2007. So Many Sacrifices, but this is the remastered version, which was released in 2018 for the 25th anniversary of Roughneck. Do you want to talk a little bit about this track?
Oh, this remastered version is practically the same
Practically the
one,
same.
but it sounds
better.
It's polished a bit. Yeah, that's the thing. But
Cool.
yeah, I that's a very important release for me.
Yeah.
It's one of the tracks usually when I write music, it's kind of a, you know, it's almost like it's a job. You know, I have to really work through it, and obviously I'm inspired to do stuff, but sometimes I just have to try out so many things, and it starts to take too long, and I lose confidence in the song. I lose, you know, motivation to finish it, and I have to start working on discipline. And this was one of the tracks that just I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I started off with, I wrote the riff in my studio, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna see what I'm gonna do with it. And he said, I have some ideas. Cool, sure. And I just went to his studio and wrote the thing in 2 or 3 days, I
Nice.
think, which for me is like a
Never happens.
record time. Yeah.
Okay.
I just wrote the thing, and it was done, and there was never a question like, do we need to change this, or do we need another part, or skip it? No, we just wrote the thing, and it was what it was, and it was what we meant it to be.
Cool. Let's run that banger, shall we?
You know what the scariest thing is? To not know your place in this world. To not know why you're here. It's just an awful feeling. There were so many times I questioned myself. I almost gave up hope. So many sacrifices. Just to find
God is not here.
So many sacrifices just to find.
Cool. So that was a tune from 2007, remastered for 2018. But we're going to go back a little bit further. We're entering the millennium. 2001 was a bit of a turning point because you decide to enroll at school, technology, right, at the HKU Music Technology in Utrecht.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you start releasing on Enzyme and things really start kicking off at this point. So, yeah, why was it important, or what did you kind of learn from studying, and why is this a good school? Because it is actually one of the best, isn't it?
It is a very good school. I do feel that when I was there, we were in a sort of transitional period because music production was at that point going to software and stepping away from big mixers and big recording studios. It was all starting to get smaller and more compact and more in the box. And obviously where I was coming from was in the box. So it was sort of that everything was moving towards me, but I had to learn about what they were doing that was starting to be less relevant. So that was weird. Still, I think it was a really good thing to, a good school to go to because, the teachers, just a lot of experience and in the field experience. And I sort of, I was challenged, to because it's easy once you have you're in a groove, you sort of know how to work, how you do your stuff. Suddenly I had music homework and I had to, like, for instance, write a string quartet, something. And how do I can't do that, but over the course of, that year or that semester, you did learn to write a string quartet or something resembling string quartet. But yeah, I did get challenged, and I really got a lot of my, one of my teachers was really into sound design and soundscapes and that kind of stuff. And I remember that we would just have classes, and that he'd play some old piece, old tape piece from the 60s or something, and it would be 20 minutes or whatever. And for a lot of people in my class, that was hard. Like, no, stay focused and listen. And it was just a way to break from your consumerism of music and really start to listen to details and start to listen to what is happening over a longer period of time, or and studying these details, you suddenly start to find out a lot of stuff that's going on and how they did it, and you get inspired to look up more of this stuff and how they did it and what kind of sounds you can maybe incorporate into your stuff, instead of just having everything that was relevant at that moment. So that was, I think, the best thing that I had there. These sound design classes and these out of the box ways of working and old fashioned ways that still contributed to your arsenal of stuff that you can do. At the same time, I think if I would go there now, I would pick up so much more stuff, because I was a bit young and I didn't really see the relevance of everything I was learning. And I still had a bit of the 5 Havo vibe in me, which is maybe for some Dutchies know what I mean with that. And I was just, too much, still a kid, and these were really rich classes. There was so much to get from them, and I kind of skimmed it a bit. And
Don't worry, I was drunk for my 3 years of university,
Well,
so
yeah,
that was definitely
so-
a waste of time.
But I think I would pick up a lot more if I went there now opposed to then. But it was enriching.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
And, for sure it must have influenced you, if not, on a subconscious level. There are things that you're learning and you're picking up and...
Well, when I started doing the black box stuff, this is 2003. I was breaking a lot of principles and doing stuff and cutting in audio, and this came from that sound design class in a way, not one-to-one. It wasn't like I learned that, I put that in a song, but the way of how these people were thinking about audio and what you could do with it and experimenting with it, that really came forward in the Black Box album.
Yeah, so we're talking about your debut album. Was there a concept to this? How did you approach writing it?
I had no idea.
idea.
I had no idea. Well, I had no idea who I was making music for. That was the biggest thing, because like now we can say it had some techno influences and it was like early industrial stuff. But back then, I didn't know if there was a scene for this stuff. I was influenced by Aphex Twin, Speedy J, all this kind of stuff. Not much hardcore. It was all louder experimental music or technoid music. And it was only when I already released it that I was getting emails from like DJs in Germany and stuff who were in the techno scene. And they said, "Oh, what is this? This is amazing. Do you do shows?" And I didn't even know there was a scene for this kind of stuff until it was released.
But maybe we should put this into a bit more of a time context in terms of the hardcore scene, because in the millennium in Holland it was a really different story, right? The kind of the whole Gabber explosion in the 90s, and then come into the millennium, you got new production processes, software, new sound. Yeah. Is there still an audience?
Well, the scene was really different because was there still an audience? The audience went way down. Yeah. The old style faded out, and then guys like Promo Sebastian started doing more of the slower sound. Other people as well, but he did that, and he really had a really good run with the files. Mm-hmm. And then Enzyme started in 2001, and people like Endymion and Nosferatu, and they started pushing the more melodic stuff. And then, we were in the background doing this other thing. Like the first time I heard sounds like that, it was somebody called it slow terror. Like, what is slow terror? That makes no sense, because terror is fast, right? That's the thing. Terrorcore and whatever you call it now is fast music. So slow terror doesn't make sense. So what is slow terror? And that was basically what they meant. It was music that sounded grungy, that had little to no melody, that had a different phrasing, different structure. It was, it had this bunker feel to it. This we call it like a squatter, it's like a kraakpand feel to it. And it didn't really have a name yet, but it was this kind of sound. It was, I think, coming from Germany, from the US, but it was still a big melting pot. It wasn't really defined yet. So while these guys were going more and more melodic and more structured with breakdowns and build-ups and drops and the first kind of anthemic voices and vocals, there was this thing going on underneath that was going way darker and staying slower and very dirty and distorted. And these were two. It was all hardcore, but it was sort of important back then. Like, were you a mainstream artist? Were you an industrial artist?
Back then, still now, right?
Well, still, but now it's so weird because there's no mainstream.
No?
Well, not really. there's what we used to call mainstream that has disappeared, and then by definition, mainstream should then be what's the next biggest movement within the scene, but nobody identifies in that way right now, because first of all, the up-tempo stuff and the peep kick stuff, and it's all really big, but it's
Peep kicks.
you know what they are.
No, I don't. Please tell it.
Well, it's really that. Yeah.
Sounds great.
The kick drums that are EQ'd have this such a sharp EQ before the distortion that they just resonate on the free, and they these cut straight through any mix because they just resonate at 1K or whatever. It's not like kick drum frequencies, it's mid and highs. And these cut through everything, but it's I don't know if it's an acquired taste or maybe it's
I think that's probably putting politely.
it's a taste. But well, I mean, this stuff is pretty big now, but also you got guys like Mad Dog and the Player, and they sort of went faster, but then took different turns, sound slightly differently. But there's not really defined like this label is industrial and this label is mainstream, and these guys are when they work together they're a mainstream act or whatever. That was back then. It was really clear. Like obviously, Endymion could do a more industrial styled track, but that was not their deal. Their deal was melodies and mainstream, and it was also really. I think it was even more important for the audience and the scene and the keyboard warriors, because online people would wage wars about if something was this or that subgenre. It was really super important. And it was really like identifying who you were, what you listened to, and which labels were good and bad. And back then it was really a thing. Yeah. And so
you're
that
saying
we were
it's less so.
industrial.
You're saying it's less so now.
It's less defined now, so there's no point in arguing about it. Nobody's saying, yeah, but Mad Dog is more of a retro mainstream. You know, there's no point because it's just too. We have a couple of really big sounding things like the French core and the up tempo, and the rest is kind of like just mixed up and which is I think is good, but because of that, there's no sense in arguing about it, and especially for kids then, like we just had this phase that you were either a skater or a goth, or you were into electronic music or whatever, and it was like lifestyle defining things. What you listened to was super important, and it was super important back then if you were industrial or mainstream or whatever, and that made it really complicated for me because I sort of fell into this industrial sound because I preferred that, but I hadn't really shown it in my hardcore yet, but I had a melodic background in how I wrote music and how I was trained to do music. So for the longest time, I couldn't really do melodies because you can't have industrial with melodies.
It's like slow terror or something.
It's
isn't
supposed
it?
to be slow terror. Slow terror.
Melodic industrial music.
They don't have. Yeah. There's no melodic industrial music.
Bravo.
But now that's the silver lining, because of all the boundaries have sort of melted away. Now I am actually doing melodic industrial tracks, and people see them as melodic industrial tracks, and that's fine with me. I'm really happy with that definition because it means that I can do what I want, and they're gonna call it that anyway. Yeah.
Cool. So that's just one of the 1,000 million hardcore subgenres, which we're not going to talk about any longer. Let's maybe sort of talk a bit more about your writing approach. I mean, has it? I guess now you've been doing it for so many years. Do you have a bit more of a system, or do you have a way of writing, like a methodology, or does it really depend on what you're doing and how you're feeling?
I think anytime I'm not writing music, I have no idea how to write music. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say. Like if I'm not actively doing it,
Yeah.
I really don't know how it works.
Don't know how it works.
Because and if I have a day that I'm not inspired or whatever, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and then once you like get this essence of what you were trying to do, then suddenly you lose 9 hours and you have part of a track. But it's like falling asleep almost. Like what is the moment that when you're not asleep, you can't imagine, it's hard to explain, but I obviously I do have methods how I work.
Yeah.
But it's really I really have to fall into inspiration. I can work on discipline, and then I can say, okay, so I should step 1 do this, step 2 do that. But those tracks are never as good, and they never feel as good to make. And when you're done, you never feel that satisfied with the result because it didn't happen. And those are the best tracks that just happen.
Did Butterfly VIP just happen?
Yeah, very much.
Nice.
Very much so.
I mean, we couldn't do an interview without mentioning this track, right? Is it your is it the milestone around your neck at this point, or what?
Well, it's a
Millstone.
It's a wonderful story why this track exists in the first place.
Oh, go on then.
It is
We
a
love
wonderful
stories on
story.
Prospect Radio.
I did the Black Box album.
Yeah.
So then we did these vinyls, the literal box, the literal black box with the 5 vinyls inside. And then on the CD release, I added more exclusive tracks that were unreleased. And one of them was the original of Butterfly. So I purposely sort of did a melody thing, but then kind of pulled back and then didn't really go all the way with it. And then there was this sub-label, and it wasn't doing too well. We decided not to continue it. I wasn't working with it. This is just the company was doing that. But what happened was we ended up with sleeves, like record sleeves. We had sleeves left over, on the shelves, like physical sleeves with no records. So we were like, maybe we should make records and put them in these sleeves, because the sleeves were blue and they were pink, and they were dumb, and that was awesome that they were blue and pink. So let's make tracks and let's make blue and pink releases. Okay. I'm like, all right, cool. So let's do exclusive remixes of something or whatever. Cool. Okay, good idea. So what are we gonna do? And then Patrick asked me, do you have a track that you would think would be suitable to this? And I say, I have this track I did, Butterfly, on the last album. And people have been asking about it, if I'm going to do like a remix version of it. And actually, I wrote it on the piano, but there's no piano in the track. So wouldn't it be funny if I then recorded the piano
Put it back in.
and put it back in?
Yeah.
And then make the kick more dance floor or whatever, because it didn't really have a dance floor kick. So what would happen if I just take the track, put the piano back in, put the louder kick back in, rearrange it, and then, that sounds fun. So, okay, let's do that. So that was going to be the blue sleeve. And then Endymion and Nosferatu had the track Kapotnaaien on Enzyme X. And that would be funny to put that in the pink sleeve. So
Why would that be funny?
because it was about sex, and sex somehow
sex
was
is pink, yeah,
So
okay.
yeah. So they did the remix, and I did the remix. And actually, I finished it in his studio. I was sort of finished, and he said, "Are you done?" I'm like, sort of. Well, finish it. And I'm okay. I'll just put the break like this. Should I take this out? No, leave that in. Okay, whatever. Yeah, it's done. So we recorded the remix, and they recorded their remix, and he heard these remixes and said, because there were like 400 blue sleeves and 400 pink sleeves, and he heard that, and he said, "There's no way I'm pressing 400 of this track. It's not happening." So what he did was we made blue and pink editions of Kapotnaaien, and we just put Butterfly VIP in a black sleeve, which totally neglected the point of why I did the remix in the first place, and that's why it's just in it had no sleeve. It was just in a black sleeve. So it was kind of the whole joke didn't happen.
Right.
Like we didn't do it.
But then the biggest joke is it turned out to be one of your biggest tracks.
Yeah, it was a slow burner though.
Oh, okay.
It was. It was out for a while and it got some good response. And but it was like something like that can't happen now anymore. I think because I think it was out for over half a year before it started to pick up some steam. And then I did my next record, my next album, and I handed in the track list and this and that, and Butterfly was starting to do well, but I was like, hey, that's my last track, this is the new album. So I handed in this album, and they said, why is Butterfly not on it? So that's the track before. And I'm like, are you nuts? Put the track on the album.
Okay.
So, okay, I'll put the track on the album. So they came
got
out.
another boost.
The VIP version came out on the new album, just as like a lot of people were starting to play it. Like mainstream guys, Outblast was playing it a lot. He was one of the first guys to really play it a lot. And then suddenly and then we ended up repressing it over and over again.
So before, didn't think you could sell 400 copies. Now
It
look
was
at
made
it.
for 400. It was made for 400 copies, and I think it ended up going. I'm not sure, because I think there was supposed to be one more pressing, and it didn't happen, and that would have taken it up to 7,500, I think. But in the end, I think it went 5.5, 6. I think.
Wow.
A bit more
There you
than
go.
400, yeah. But and for those times, that was really not bad. I mean, and now it would be crazy if we would do a vinyl and it would go 6,000. That would be like,
Yeah.
oh god.
Now, all you budding producers out there, if you want to know how to make the track, check out the Butterfly VIP tutorial.
I did do that.
Yeah, you
yes.
did. I guess this is a good segue to talk about your YouTube channel because for me, I feel like it's a really nice and unique way to kind of be really personal with your audience, but obviously have the distance of the computer screen and the internet. So I'm curious as to why you've decided to use this channel for this purpose, I guess. Vlogging, a word which
well,
nobody
yeah.
knows or uses anymore.
I didn't think I really ever actually
Vlogged.
vlogged. I
No.
did some like party reports and stuff a little bit in the beginning, but I think it was twofold. First of all, I really love YouTube. I think the community there, not everywhere. The comments can be really horrible on YouTube, but like on some of the better channels, they have a great community, and there's lots of creativity on YouTube and lots of artists that are using that to show themselves and their techniques and stuff. And I really love the platform for that, for consuming like these videos. Personally, I just like to watch them. So there was that side, and also there was this weird moment that that I really didn't. It sort of resembled the moment that happened like years before, that I really didn't know who I was making music for anymore, and I felt that that some of this community, because Facebook was super important and like Instagram was coming up, I can't do this stuff. I have them, but I you're supposed to post twice a day or whatever, and I really can't do it because, first of all, I think what I'm doing is boring. Because when I'm just figuring stuff out, I'm just sitting like, what I'm supposed to do, post like, yeah, in the studio again, and then 8 hours later, yeah, still in the studio. And a day later, yeah, I'm still working in the studio.
You know what? You should do like 100 instead of 100 kick drums, 100 layers of you in the studio.
Just going like, yeah, yeah. So I don't see the point. I mean, some guys are naturals at this. They create content. It's just visual. It works. That's not me. So I really didn't know who my audience was anymore, and the way hardcore was progressing was just I felt that it wasn't going anywhere that had a place for me, because I never made this music to be successful or to be a big name. I just did that because I liked this sound. I liked mixing this up and doing these alternative sort of takes to what was going on, and not to to be like, look at me, I'm special, but because that was just, I was being creative, and I didn't really do it to succeed with these tracks.
Yeah.
So then when the style changed again, and I felt like I'm if I do what I used to do, then it's not going to work. It's going to be over, because there's pressure from labels, from festivals, like, just work a bit faster and do a bit more blunt samples and louder kick drums. And no, I can't. I don't want to, and I really can't, because I would not like what I would make.
Yeah.
And obviously I do some professional audio work as well and stuff, so you have to do something.
Let's drop that.
You have to do stuff as well that's not from your own motivation, but still doing music in my own name that I would not be yeah,
No.
that didn't work. So it happened that I just felt like, I don't know, is there an audience still now, or do I have to confirm to this? And I really didn't want to. So the other thing was just to let go, basically. And that's what I did. And I didn't, at that point, I really did not know if I would have a career in hardcore beyond 6 months or something.
Wow.
Like
What kind of year or period are we talking about here?
17, 18.
Okay. When you took to YouTube, basically.
Basically,
Ah,
yeah.
here we go. You're answering my question now.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I'm actually.
Yeah, no,
so what
perfect.
happened was I started, like, actually stopped releasing so much and just started doing more personal videos and trying to connect with people. Like, I basically said, "Are you guys there?" And they said, "Yes, we are." Like, "Oh, there you are." Like, so that kind of happened. So I found this little, like, the people who really were into the music for the creative side and for the technical side and for the nerdy details and whatever. They were there. They were not at the festivals anymore, but they were still there. And I found them sort of on YouTube, outside of the big noisy Facebook stuff. And it was smaller, but it was so, I was sort of relieved that, like, oh my God, they exist. Like,
Yeah.
there are still people that follow, like, me for me.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure, like, when I did Running on Empty, that was one of my more elaborate YouTube videos that I shot, like, this lo-fi video for. What I said that I resign, I didn't mean like I resign now. Some people took it that way. That was not what I meant, but I did really mean that I didn't know if, I let go. Like, there is nothing for me to hang on to anymore. So I took this time to do YouTube videos and the challenges and other stuff, instead of working on, like, releases. Another
release.
thing, because I didn't feel inspired to do that. And as well, the challenges were, first of all, they were fun to do. And but also they were a way to escape from whatever was expected that a track should sound like. Because obviously, if you're going to do a track within constraints, it's not going to sound like a modern hardcore thing what people want to play at festivals, because I'm working from a different starting point. So it's sort of escapism in a way, like using these challenges to do more personal music. And YouTube was, that was my platform.
That was the platform.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about the challenges a bit later, just to not mess up the media schedule. No, we're going to go back to, DJing, performing. So I'm curious when you started and what made you. I guess someone made you do it, because that was never really on your agenda. Yes and no.
Sort of, but it was, I had, I think from about the year 2000, I had, because I was collecting vinyl, because that was the way you got your records in the 90s, right? So if you had a release, like the Roughneck releases were on vinyl. If I wanted to have them before the CD releases, and all the tracks and all the exclusives, you had to buy vinyl. So I was playing that, but then I think around late 90s, early 2000s, I had somewhat of a DJ setup. But it was for me.
Yeah.
And it was for friends and messing about, and like occasionally for a birthday party. But I had, I had stage fright, and I didn't mind doing it on parties, but I had no desire to do this on a big stage. So then in 2001, I actually did a performance, what we would now call a live act, with Tapage in a kraakpand.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was kind of full circle. Yeah. And we did that, and it was for people out of their minds and whatever. It was fun though. But that was the first time I did a performance for people that I didn't know. Yeah. And then when Enzyme started, and they started the bookings agency within Enzyme to do an agency for Endymion and Nosferatu and stuff. And I said, yeah, I'll probably let you know when I will join the agency. And they're like, sure you will. Yeah. Yeah. Just let us know. Yeah. And like in 2002 or 3, like I'll probably start doing this soon. Because when I did the Black Books, they were asking me to perform, and I said, no, I don't perform, and blah blah blah. So I said, yeah, I'm gonna practice a bit and sort out what I want to do, and then I'll probably join the agency and I'll start performing. Like I'm definitely. You haven't been saying that for 2 years already now. We totally believe you. But then actually in 2004, I did finally just start. I had some friends. They were also DJing, and I started really low key and did 2 or 3 shows with them, and then I said, so. Time has come, and they were really surprised that it actually happened. Yeah. That I did join, and they could book me for parties.
Actually, yeah, and then your first, you played Thunderdome in 2004?
Yeah.
Wow. But was that the first big gig, or you didn't?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
I did a live act, I think, in the Night Town earlier that year. You were there?
I was there. That was your first.
That was my first live act. Yeah.
I was there.
Wait, Gareth's saying you were there where? What?
Night Town.
From the start, his first.
When was it? 2004, about like...
Darkness for Life, Back to School, guys.
Which month? Do you remember?
Which month?
Yeah.
So he had to be there.
Yeah, but I was the promoter.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just trying to make a timeline. But so, yeah.
Yeah, because...
Sorry, Gareth, who doesn't like doing PRSPCT Radio anymore, wants to actually speak anyway. No, come in!
No, but this is actually true. I was there.
That was your first live show.
That was my first live show.
Yeah, that was in Night Town.
And I
was it Darkness for Life or something?
Probably.
Like that? Yeah.
No, it was no. We'll think of it. I'll look it up.
The name I don't remember, because I remember that also Roughneck, Patrick and Andrea were also there.
Yeah, they were really interested to see what I was gonna do.
Yeah,
they actually came and picked me up at my parents' house, where I had put all my stuff on a table, and I was hooking up the MPC and because it was completely out of the blue. I mean, I just bought some equipment and put my tracks in the sampler, and okay, let's go. So that was the Night Town thing. Was like.
Yeah, see, and I knew this. I was already thinking, hey, wait a second. Yeah, that was the first one, because I know that a lot of people were anticipating it, and it was kind of like the highlight of the night for your debut performance. It was prime time, I remember, something like that.
Probably, I was in a buzz all night, so...
I wasn't, because I was working. Wait, let's look. What was it called? Humanoids. That's it. Yeah.
So when was it? It was
2004. Yeah, 24th of September.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was my first live act.
Yeah, and
one of my first performances.
And what I also remember, because Outside Agency played, and they played the track where they used the the conflict, the Reese from the Conflict track. Yeah, Antichrist, and that was also, I was like, whoa, what, they're playing drum and bass now? So it was a legendary night for me. Anyway, back to you, Holly. That was it.
This all has like it segues back into the question.
Yes, segue.
Because, so yeah, we de-segue. We segued in.
Oh,
and
right,
we,
and then
we
we're segueing back.
So what happened? That was my first live act.
Yeah.
And then ever, except for the crackpot thing before. And then that was like the 24th of September. And then months later, my second live act ever was on Thunderdome.
Wow. Okay, crazy.
So that was, I had one run in a smaller venue, and then bam, Thunderdome.
Wow, terrifying.
It was, yeah, I don't know. It was so overwhelming that I think it wasn't even terrifying because it was just.
Yeah.
Blah.
Yeah. Can't even remember it because it's just a blur.
I just remember seeing like little people for as far as you could see. A sea of heads.
So we're actually hopefully showing a picture of you playing Thunderdome 2009 with Dee Passion.
Yeah.
You played quite a lot of Thunderdomes right up until last year, which I was in attendance, playing the Heroes of Hardcore stage. It's a bit of an honour, that, I guess, being called a hero. Or not.
I guess so.
Or
it
not.
also makes me kind of feel like if you're a hero,
Or old.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like
Yeah, great.
the has-beens of hardcore. Nah, I'm sure they didn't just see it that way, but yeah, it was for people that had already earned their place and were maybe not main stage at that moment. But yeah. Nah, I'm sure it was a great stage, and I'm sure they meant it in a respectful way. But we had a great party as well. It was a great stage, and we played fun sets, and yeah.
But I think I'm more interested in talking about the Resonant Hardcore Classics live set that you did in 2018, because that was quite a big deal, wasn't it? And frankly, the setup is insane. Like, I've never seen so much equipment on stage.
Yeah, well, it was, yeah.
And then actually you playing I've never seen someone play keyboard so fast.
I'm completely knackered after 30 minutes. I just fall over. Now, well, I think at that moment, what happened was my live act had evolved with me over the years, but some of the older stuff was just more fitting to play live. Obviously, if I have a track that has a string section and a piano breakdown, that's something you can perform on stage. If you have 5 minutes of thrashing kick drums, it's fun, but other than doing some filters or whatever, it's not much you can show off. And I know that's not a point for a lot of other people, but for me in a live act, I want to do something live. So what happened was it was starting to get less relevant in a way, but very suitable for like a Millennium setting. And then when Millennium started coming back, like my live acts started coming back, and it was easier for me to come up with a good set to do, and that was more fun and more showy to do. And then obviously Resonate came along, which was like a defining Millennium event. And I think by that time there was also a new a new generation of people who were going to these parties, and they knew Millennium from having listened to them, having found it, but not from having experienced it before, partially. And the other half of the people were people who had experienced it before and were waiting for it to come back, sort of, in a way. So this
Time was right, basically.
It was basically a perfect storm. So what happened was that this kind of act that I did there, I hadn't done in such a complete way for a while. And there were also people who were going to see it for the first time. So it all just came together that I did this big performance of all the hit tracks after one another on this stage, and in this with like a big spotlight on it. And yeah, I had a lot of people reacting to it.
That was a moment.
Yeah, that was a moment, yeah.
And you can watch highlights on Ophidian's YouTube channel.
There were also people who hated it. That was
we're
always,
not going to talk about the haters.
No, but I was just mentioning it because I remember getting one message of somebody who really hated it, and it was, I think he sent the message at 12:05 or whatever, that I ruined his party. And I think the whole thing was on to about 12 o'clock. So this thing ended, and he just walked out the
Ruined
door and within 5 minutes said, "It's your fault that my night was shitty." Like, it was the first thing he did after the party. I thought that was so amazing.
Did you reply to him or what?
I don't think.
No.
Maybe I said something like something generic, like, "I'm sorry."
Thanks for your feedback.
Sorry you didn't have a good time. I did.
I did. Fuck you. Okay, cool. I think it's time for some music. We're going to talk about your label Metaphor. So we're going to play one of my personal favourite tracks, favourite EP from this label. It's Killborn. We're going to play Bleached Whale, released in 2018, the Evnika EP. Do you want to quickly talk about Killborn and this release before we hear it?
Killborn came way out of left field.
Yeah.
She's from New York, right? And anytime you get a demo from the States, and especially from scenes like New York, it's completely different. They don't have this pressure to have a festival sound or have a sound that fits to this or that label, or it will be played by this or that guy. So anytime they send something, it's going to be different, out of the box. And this demo was just so organic and just weird because it changed tempos, and this sound was just different. It was weird, and I loved it right away. I think we had to change one track, but other than that, the demo was just mixed and mastered, and that was the release.
Great. So this is, I don't know, this is the sound of insanity. Let's play it. Bleached Whale. So wow, I'm happy now. Big shout out to Kilborn. She's really kind of exploded since this EP. And I think that's kind of the point of your label, right? It's giving new artists a chance, but then also giving older artists a chance to do something different, right?
That's very well said. It's kind of it's a difficult thing, this label, because it basically exists because I think it needs to.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's very difficult for me to do much with it. So
Why?
because it's very time consuming to also run a label, and I have, especially like the recent years, been very busy just staying afloat myself. And then I always feel guilty that I'm not giving as much exposure that would be possible with these releases. At the same time, I know there's a core audience, and if I can give somebody their start in the scene by showing their work on a release, then I'm really glad to do that. But I do feel guilty every day that I can't put more time into it, but it's just not realistic. And the way it's looking now, I will actually be moving a lot of my responsibilities to somebody else, to Secretos Vigilia. From
who has released this year?
yeah, he's just done an album last week.
Oh, woo!
Yeah.
Exclusive. So check that out.
And so because he has a lot of, he's networking in the scene where it's relevant and stuff, and I would feel a lot better if he had the power to then use his contacts to push the label forward. At the same time, I'm glad that there are a lot of people who have had a good run after their release, that they're still kind of unknown, but then it sort of legitimizes them in a way. Like you people are sleeping on this kind of in a way, and then and then people are interested in that artist, and then they have they get opportunities elsewhere. I've never said no, you cannot now release with this or that label after, because now you're an exclusive metaphor artist. I've never done that. I never said that to anybody. If they got a great opportunity to release somewhere, please do it, because that's what it's for. I'm not holding anybody to a contract like, no, you have to do 3 EPs with me first or something. No, it's not the point. The point is show the sound exists, that's legit. There's an underground scene. These guys are doing awesome music. Guys and girls are doing awesome music. And they should be heard. So here's an EP. And then if they can use that to take off, then I'm glad. That's good. Then it's a success.
Great. So that's Metaphor. Definitely check that out, dig into it. And good news, there's more stuff on the horizon.
There is, yeah.
Perfect. Now let's talk about your alter egos. Meander?
Yeah.
And Rajel. Why did these two different aliases come up, and why did you feel like you needed to have another alias?
Well, first of all, it was very, very normal to have a lot of different names.
I mean, you've already had a bunch anyway before.
Yeah.
So.
But also, I think it's a way to define a project in a way, and it makes it easier for people to understand what's happening. For instance, I've done a number of albums as Meander as well, but if you would just follow them in between the Ophidian albums, people would be super confused, and especially what I was saying before, you have to have a certain sound and people know what to expect from you and this, that. If I would then start doing alternate albums that one is drum and bass, one is breakcore, one is IDM, and then back to hardcore, people would be completely lost. And I know guys huge names just do this. What if a Radiohead, if they do a new album, then it sounds like the new album of Radiohead, and you need to go into that with an open mind, and it's not going to be like the last one. It's going to be different. Or if there's going to be a new Aphex Twin, you know it's going to sound like Aphex Twin, but you don't know if it's going to be fast or slow or hectic and broken up, or maybe really mellow. But he can do that. I feel that how we operate here, that is not very, you can't do that. Because also if you get booked for a gig here and you're on a stage, they know what name is there. They know sort of, they don't know exactly, but they know sort of, like they're going to be playing this or that genre. You're not going to suddenly be playing 130 BPM ambient driven or techno driven ambient. You're going to be playing hardcore. So to better define the projects I do, I split them up into aliases.
Okay. And what is the sort of sonic difference between these two? How would you define them for those who don't know?
Well, I haven't used Raziel in a while, but those were tracks that were usually analog, hardware-driven tracks, very noisy, slower, more industrial, or even not industrial hardcore, but like
Actual
industrial. Yeah,
Proper industrial.
proper.
Ooh.
Industrial hardcore is proper too. But yeah, what you're saying, industrial.
Yeah.
And it was a completely different mindset. So it felt logical for me to do that in a different name. The Meander stuff was, like the name suggests, it was meant to be like, this is the other stuff I go to sound wise. And
Generally, maybe more broken beat, or is that?
yeah, that's because that's what I like to do. I will never call myself a drum and bass artist. I am not. I don't have that sound.
So I daren't use that word.
No, I don't have that sound. I don't have that background. I think that many proper drum and bass artists have this link back to a sound, to a scene. I don't pretend to have that. I could fake it, but it would be fake drum and bass. And I always feel like you can hear if somebody's doing fake drum and bass or thinks they know how to do dubstep, and you can hear that, but that's not dubstep. Like, stop it. So
yeah, a lot of people should stop making dubstep.
Well,
That's
yeah.
a fact.
but the broken stuff and the breakcore-ish, IDM-ish stuff, that's for me and like a natural territory to be in, and anything within that I would like to define as what I do as Meander. And like lately it's been like this. Like
Good. Time for a prospect plug. Here
Here
we go.
Like my prospect record, it's been loud, dark, broken stuff, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. But I think it always has an abstract sense to it. It's not as straightforward as my hardcore tracks. It's not as well defined. It's not as classically danceable. You have to be into it to get it. Yeah. And I need to have a way to do this stuff, because otherwise I will just feel like I'm
In a box.
in a box. Yeah.
So if you want to get a bit more of a taste of the Meander sound, you did a Quarren stream, number 21. But we're going to play a track from the Prospect EP. We're going to listen to Human, my favourite off this one.
It's a wild one.
It's a wild one. Let's hear that. Okay, so that's What Is This track? Released on Prospect. Brilliant. Okay. Let's get to the fun stuff. So you talked about these challenge series, which I've really enjoyed watching. What made you decide to challenge yourself in such a way? And why did you start? So the first one was making a hardcore song using only the 909 kick drum. Why was this the starting point?
Well, I needed inspiration because I wasn't getting it from making music that I thought would maybe fit in the scene that I really didn't want to belong to. So that was not motivating, that was not inspiring. But going back to the roots of working with what you have and making the best of that, and maybe overachieving a bit in what you can do if you just keep on going at it, you know. That was interesting. I liked working on this kind of stuff. So the first one, the 909, was just because in concept I thought this should be doable, because a 909 kick drum is basically a weird sine wave. So if it's a weird sine wave, then I can use it to make different sounds. And yeah, like many of my projects, when I did it, I didn't really know who it was for, but I knew that I had found some more technically like interested people on YouTube. Is it like different? They didn't mind if it didn't drop right away, and they liked if I told them a bit about what was going on and why, and so yeah, so I did the 909 thing, and also because it's everywhere, right? The 909, and even if people don't realize it, it's the base of any kick drum. Even if you don't use it anymore, it's the sound was created by distorting the 909. So I just wanted to see how far I could take it, and as well, like I mentioned before, I already knew it was not going to sound like something that was relevant at that moment, right? But it didn't matter because it was an experiment. It was fun, so it didn't matter if it was relevant or not, and that was like a huge weight off my shoulders. Like it didn't have to be relevant. It didn't have to have this kick drum or that kick drum, because I was just using this one sound. So it was whatever I made with it was what it was. That was all you were going to get. Like, deal with it. This is what I'm doing with it. So I didn't have the pressure to have to conform to anything, and that was really big for me to. So it's really weird because in a way it was a challenge because it was a constraint, but it was very freeing. Yeah. It was such a opening of possibilities to work on a track like that.
Yeah, and at a moment when you were feeling particularly kind of pressured and uninspired by the hardcore scene, and to the point where you were like, fuck, I don't know if I have a career anymore. So
yeah, well, I don't want to talk down people that were doing well, because I respect them. And like I did a video back then when I was really feeling bad about it, and people kind of took it the wrong way because they took it a bit like I was criticizing the scene. But what I was saying is I don't see a place for me in this scene, and that's not because the scene sucks. It's because we've moved in different directions, and I don't know if people are interested in what I want to do. So yeah, in that moment, and I started doing more creative stuff and just pushing my own boundaries, and that kind of brought the fun back.
Yeah, for sure. So these other challenges. The next one was the monophonic music, only one sound at a time. Then you did all sounds recorded from the radio, and then you put them all together as a release, the main sequence EP. And then you did challenge number 4, a song made from video clips sent by fans. I'm smiling because I think, for me, this...
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, how can you not have fun with this?
I think that at the time when I was doing it, that the people, even people who were sending me stuff, were not super sure what was going to happen with it in a way. I think because I want to do it again soon.
Okay.
Not right now because I need to finish some stuff first, but after that I will take some time to continue the challenge series because I have a lot of stuff I still want to do. I think if I do it now, that people really know, like, okay, so let's find some interesting bits and bobs, like this is a weird sound and my cupboard or my kitchen sounds dumb. Let me send that, you know? So they know kind of what I'm going to do with it because I like to have just sounds that can be molded or taken out of context. That's my favorite thing. Like I have one sound that is something really mundane, but then put it in a different context and it sounds like something spooky or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was fun, but even in that state that people really didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it, they sent so much stuff, like way too much stuff. Because like if you look at the tracks that came before, like the 99, it was one sound. The monophonic thing was more sounds, but it was the constraints were so tight that you couldn't really do too much. And then the radio thing I was using like 10, 12 sounds maybe. And then the videos thing, I don't even remember, like 140 bits. And some of these recordings were people just recording something for minutes. So if you just played all the sounds, it would be an hour of material or something. And that's like weeding through that and picking good moments and good like colors and characters from these videos. That was already so much work, and that's why I ended up splitting it in two because there was no way I was going to put that in one track.
Yeah.
So
and that one is released on the Messenger EP, which came out this year. Both of those you can pay as you want on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
But do pay something for the poor artists.
Well, the thing is that these people who appreciate this, I love that so much. They really do want to support, and you see that even more clearly if you make it possible to download it for free, but then they don't. And what ends up happening is that even these guys who say, hey, here's €2 or whatever, like buy a coffee or something, in the end, you make more money than... It's not a lot of money, but you make some money, and it's more than you get for some commercial releases that don't work or whatever, because then you need to pay all these different, the artwork, the label,
all the middlemen.
All the middlemen, and then you end up with some really vague sources like obscure streaming sites or YouTube videos that it's not really completely clear whose rights they are, and you end up getting zilch, like nothing. So even like the €2 coffee that you get from somebody is €2 more than you would get, and you know, I mean, it's everything.
We're all begging for change now in the music industry.
How awesome is that? And I appreciate that so much because I know that everybody, if they want to find something, even a paid release, right? If they want to find it for free, they will find it for free. Yeah. And so putting not just a track, but a whole EP and saying, you know what? Here it is. I want as many people who are interested to have this to actually have it. Go get it, grab it. I don't care. Just, please do download it for free. But if you want, you can pay, and that people do pay. I feel that's that's an interaction in a way, right? So because somebody's saying, dude, that was awesome, do it again. Mm-hmm. And it's such a direct way of saying that.
Affirmation.
Yeah.
This is what you guys want, or Cool. So we're gonna.
So thank you very much for anybody.
Thank you, fans.
Thank you for the energy drinks and the coffees and other caffeinated stuff. That most stuff I spend it on is caffeinated, I guess. But.
Great. Woo! Okay, in the last 8 minutes before Synapse steps up to the decks, we're gonna play one last video, the last video. It's from the leftovers of these videos that were sent in. Subtitle, probably the dumbest song I've done so far. So shall we just say no more? Shall we just listen to that?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Cool. All right, go.
Hi everybody, this is Conrad Ophidian. I hope you are all having a great December. Quick introduction, because you already know the concept. A while ago you guys sent me a lot of videos to use in a track, and I made the Cats and Coffee Machines project with it, the track called Sometimes. I had a lot of videos left over, so I promised you guys I'd try to make another track using some of them, and well, yeah, I meant to do that a lot sooner, but you know, stuff happened, and now it's December. But seeing as there are fireworks samples in there, it seemed very fitting to have it done just before New Year's Eve and do the video, and that's what we're here for today. Unfortunately, again, I couldn't use every single video I got sent, but you know, most of them are in there. I'll show off the source material first so you can look at what I used to build the track, and then after that play the whole thing for you guys. Warning, this track is kind of special, but you know, that said, enjoy.
Thunder rocket? Ja, nou.
Zurückbleiben bitte.
Wat wil je nou eens?
Nee.
Oh, in mijn nog. Assel. Maak je?
Ja, best wel.
Wat wil je nou eens?
Nee.
Wil je zeggen?
Ja, dat denk ik.
Oh, wil jij nou eens? Eentje? Oh, leuk.
Dit moet je dus niet doen. Thunder rocket.
Thunder rocket?
Afsteken. Zonder stok. En het water. Moet je niet doen. Maar wij gaan het doen. Experimentele toedagen. Wat is die trilling? dunderen, oké?
Eentje? Oké.
Experimentele doeleinden. Oh shit, jongen. Ik ga nog een beetje... Boom!
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Ophidian.
You're welcome.
So
Thanks for having me.
okay. We're all eating pizza now, and we're going to let Synapse take us away. Hi.
Where did you go? You weren't taking care of business. Who were you with last night? Was it someone I know? Was it someone I know?
connection.
in complete darkness. Just the deepest darkness on Earth. They're a mile underground. They've been driven almost insane. They are waiting to die.
Your demons are quite capable of killing you, and the death is real.
So we're hunting my demons, and my demons are hunting me.
You are both predator and prey. Be especially careful.
This is something.
You are both predator and prey.
Well.
is that? DMT. And being able to describe things. So I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna talk about this? What the fuck is that? Bigger the dose, the more your brain participates. Spray. Industrial cooking spray. Everything is connected to everything. The butterfly effect. Touching and affecting everything. Everything is connected to everything.
must resist. This will lead to your absolute deaths. Once we are unified, we will cross the threshold.
In the dread of this, their desolation.
And the rivers were filled. The dead were everywhere. The earth cried out. And it never stopped.
your system. Fuck your system. Don't fuck your system. Destruction.
in times like these, he should be fought by another kind of evil.
break you up into pieces. And I don't need no help. You understand that?
Come on!
sing the song that ends the earth.
Cool. So thanks to Synapse for taking us back to the good old days. Thanks to Ophidian for being friggin' awesome. With any luck, he'll be playing on Saturday for an evening with at Worm. Premium subscribers get to watch it, but only if you subscribe to the Prospect Radio app for $2.99, a mere $2.99 a month. We've also got something fun to announce. We've got a chat box coming tomorrow. And you can basically do everything that you normally do on Facebook, but not on Facebook. How good is that? That was our show. Tune in next time. Stay safe. Drink a Corona. Bye.